Yo, yo! Our Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo run is ready to roll. MHFsilver is on for an any percent New Game Plus run for us. Please, take it away.
Alrighty, so hello everybody, I'm MHFsilver, or just Silver. We're going to be doing Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo New Game Plus, no major glitches. So what the New Game Plus allows us to do is it allows us to take things like our yo-yo abilities, all our badges, and all of the upgrades, and it lets us take it into a brand new file. So for those that maybe saw my AGDQ run earlier this year, saw the pure any percent run and how absurd that was with all the glitches, obviously we can't do any of that now, but what I'm going to be doing is showcasing still just how silly the game can get by allowing us to do New Game Plus and just have everything from the get-go. So I'm ready to begin. I'll give a countdown from 5. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And we're going to have the game auto-skip every cutscene for us. And one benefit we have from New Game Plus immediately is once we enter the Pipistrello Manor here, we're going to have the ability to change our badges and equip some stuff. So I'm going to equip a few badges, and I'm going to change what I have equipped for my abilities, and then we're just going to go into the manor itself. So the badges that I equipped allow me to carry money closer to me with a magnet, and the other one I have makes it to where my yo-yo is going to create a fire path when I use it to move around. Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo itself is a sort of Metroidvania 2D Zelda-inspired game, where the goal is that we're going to be traveling all around the city once we get actual access to it. We're here to visit our aunt, and our aunt runs the city's entire electrical system, and the main business people across the entire city have not been a big fan of her pricing, so they're here to actually feel her energy itself. And so our aunt is going to have her power split between several mega batteries, is what they're called, and each of the main business people are going to take a mega battery for themselves. So our goal is we're going to travel all around town to recover all the mega batteries so we can help our aunt get back together. We're going to enter that cutscene now. So it's going to get skipped for us, but we can see slightly. A good bit of our aunt's power also gets into our yo-yo, which the whole titular Cursed Yo-Yo part comes from. First thing we're going to do is we're going to skip a room to get to this battery early. Now I'm going to... Oh, that's fine. We'll just take it with us. So there is a way to skip this encounter. Normally, we're going to throw the yo-yo into the middle of the room, and we're going to try and grab it from the edge of the screen there, which just skips that entire forced encounter. We can do that. And get to this room where I'm just going to use my yo-yo to just run over everything. I can sneak past this guy. I don't need to do this puzzle, because I can just run over the water with the walk the dog move, is what this is called. I can do the same here, or I can just go down from here. So this is like one of the benefit of the New Game Plus is having all these abilities that allow us to trivialize some of these early puzzles. We can just skip over some of the stuff completely and not have to actually engage with it. And then with my yo-yo having the little fire on it, enemies that only have 1 HP will just get destroyed when my yo-yo collides with them. And here we're going to have this little battle arena where I'm going to take the yo-yo and I'm going to throw my yo-yo off the string. So now the yo-yo itself is a constant damage box, where if the yo-yo is off the string, so I have only my string right now, it'll just cause enemies to get stunned, and I'm going to use it to push these guys into the water. And that skips having to deal with that encounter. The big guys with the hammers take a lot of damage. They've got a lot of health to them. And now we've escaped the sewers. And we're going to go into the main part of the city. We get introduced to the safe house, which is where we're going to go back between every boss fight and for getting upgrades, which we're going to do immediately here. Now that we've entered the south part of the city, we're going to go into a little restaurant down here and find our cousin Pepita. Pepita is our upgrade tree, so we're going to interact with her. And then I'm going to talk to this NPC. I'm going to buy a burger, and we're just going to leave. Over here, I'm going to drop it, and we're going to go talk to Pepita. So the way the upgrades in this game work is we can take an upgrade, and we have to pay a contract fee, and while we have this contract, we have a debuff. So in this case, I have 1 less HP until I can pay back all the money to Pepita. And the money only comes out of 50% of our total money. So every bit of money I pick up, 50% goes to the contract, 50% goes into my pocket. So I'm just picking up some money that I know is like some like really good high dollar value money bags. And then we're gonna go enter the first main area of the city. That's just over here. I did not mean to get run over. Well, that's no big deal. There is a consequence to dying. When you die, you lose some of your money. It doesn't come out of our contract, thankfully. It just comes out of the money that's in our pocket. But we do want to obviously avoid dying as much as possible, because we want to still have some money for some things we need. Here, I'm going to take this key out of this puzzle. So normally, keys, when you find them like this, they're intended to be used for the puzzle in the room. But I'm actually going to take the key out of the puzzle itself and store it in our safe house. This is actually something the developers themselves admitted that they intended people to kind of figure out and mess with. So we're just kind of stealing this key for its for an unintended purpose. And I'm gonna grab this money bag right here. We're gonna go up the room, and we're gonna take another key from a puzzle here. We got this guy. And the reason we need all these keys will become very clear later. But right now, I just need to collect them. And, oops. Or maybe not. Oh, there we go. Okay. Wasn't wanting to play nice with me. That's fine. So now we have the other key we need. We can drop this one down. And now we're going to go into the first mini dungeon. So every area has a intended mini dungeon you need to complete before accessing the main dungeon itself. The mini dungeon in this area we absolutely need to do. Even in the normal speedrun where we can do all the glitches, we still have to do this mini dungeon because the loading zone for the main dungeon is not visible until we clear this mini dungeon. So it needs to be done absolutely no matter what. Over here, I just need to grab a key. I want to avoid these enemies. Oops, that's fine. I didn't mean to actually interact with that guy. I'm going to drop the key here. Just move past all the enemies. And then here we have to do a little encounter. And we can see the magnet badge I had equipped earlier, where all the money's just kind of flowing into me. Just makes it easier where you don't have to like actually worry about picking up some of the money. It'll just come directly to us. And then the upgrade I'm trying to pay off increases my damage. There's a lot of upgrades you can get that do a variety of different things, but the upgrades we're going to be focusing on for this run are just ones that are going to boost my attack stat. Everything else is kind of irrelevant for this run. So we're going to enter this skyscraper. The reason we need to do this is we need to get a badge that'll give us access to the main dungeon. This whole area is a pretty sizable dungeon in of itself, but the exit to the dungeon is at the very top, and due to our wall ride ability, we can just skate along a barrier that's meant to block you from doing exactly what I'm doing right now. So we have the badge much earlier than intended, all because we can do the wall ride ability, and that's the entire dungeon. So if you saw my AGDQ run where the dungeon is also very quick, it's no different here. We can still just breeze through it even without glitches. So now we have actual access to the main dungeon. So now we're going to take our little badge and we're going to go over here. Just pick up some extra money on the way. And this is why we need that badge. Without giving this guy that badge, this loading zone does not exist. And so we can't actually enter the dungeon itself. So now we're in the first main dungeon, and we're gonna still skip a good chunk of it because of having late game abilities. We can jump to this part of the map, and we can grab the key here, throw it into this lock, skip that entire encounter, We can go over here. Now there's an enemy encounter in here, but we can skip this one too, just by hugging that wall. And we just gotta come over here. Gotta pick up this key. I like that that slime is very close. Okay, thank you. And then I'm actually going to come in here because I paid off my contract. So I'm going to talk to Pepita. We're going to take our next contract. I'm going to take the key back. We're going to clear this gap. And I'm going to throw the key to unlock that path. And then over here is a hidden money bag worth $1,000. So we'll just take that. By the end of this, I need a good chunk of money to be able to pay for a bunch of items I'll need near the end of the run. But right now, we only really need it for the contracts that we're taking. And then,
It's a good time to come in with some donations.
yeah, if you want to cover something real quick.
Okay, well, we do have $50 from Chibi Satan. They said, ended up having time to catch the run. Hope that it goes well. Thank you so much, Chibi Satan.
All right, we're going to enter our first boss fight against the Slime Tycoon, and I'm going to come in here to change my badges. I'm going to equip what's called the... Oh, actually, I need to take this money bag. Now I can actually do it. I'm going to equip what's called the Demon Badge, and it requires all of my badge points, and it sets my HP to 2, but it increases the damage I do by a significant amount. So in the ideal scenario, the Slime Tycoon here will not have any chance to do anything. Normally his gimmick is he jumps around the entire area, drops a bunch of bombs, spawns some enemies, but the damage output we have does so much that he's actually completely unable to move before we just end each phase. And that's the first boss. So that's the whole reason we've been getting all these upgrades, is that we're specifically setting ourselves up to do tons of damage output like that. Now, not every boss is gonna, unfortunately, not every single boss is gonna fold as quickly, but that does still mean that most of what we're gonna be doing is still kind of just tearing through bosses. So now that we've done that, we have our first mega battery of 4. We're going to leave, and we're going to go to what is intended to be the first actual area of the game. And we're going to do the actual first dungeon. Now, I realize I did mistakenly forget something, but that's fine. I'm going to activate this here. I meant to access a taxi spot back at the South Plaza. So what I did right there is I activated a taxi spot that's used for fast travel. When I was down in the south area the first time, I meant to activate a taxi spot there to use for fast travel, but I completely spaced it. So normally I wouldn't have to ride my yo-yo all the way back here. I could just fast travel. But it's no big deal. I'll just activate it while I'm here because we will still need it. And then once we go into this area, we're going to once again steal a key from a puzzle. Oops. So the first actual intended area, we're gonna go up, and then in this room, there's another key we can get. And then we'll come over here to this safe house. And we'll just drop it in and leave. So this dungeon we're about to enter, its whole gimmick is it's a giant mall that has a bunch of like small sections across it. The mini dungeon here is normally how we're supposed to get access to the mall, but we can just skip it because we have walk the dog. What we're going to do is all these keys I've been bringing with me, we're going to use to unlock some of the things we need. Normally, you're supposed to go around different sections of this mall to gather keys to unlock these, but we're taking keys from other areas that are significantly faster to obtain than doing the actual intended areas of the mall. this area up here, this is where we normally learn Walk the Dog, and so its whole puzzle is to get you over here. So we can just go ahead and take the key right now. Not have to worry about it. And then we're gonna go to the right-hand side here. This area is still not too bad. This area kind of goes by pretty quickly. We're gonna come over here. We can see here, just like my Yo-Yo did at the start of the run, enemies' shots can also just bank off walls and stuff. So enemies that have guns will shoot their bullets and just bank off walls. Not very fun to deal with, because then things can get very hectic. And this guy, whenever he bonks off walls, he moves a little faster. Thankfully, he wasn't too bad. Over here. We get to skip just all of the maneuvering around the water. Take another key. And the reason we're doing all this is hitting these switches will give us access to the rest of the dungeon. So we can see there in the middle, something is slowly raising up. Come down here to grab one more key. And we can hit the final switch, which will give us access to the rest of the dungeon. Now, one thing I hadn't really talked about was each of the mega batteries gives a bunch of power to the individual who has it, and the people we're going after use it for, like, they have their own, like, various things that they're using it for. In the Slide Tycoon's case, he was using it to fuel a bunch of construction projects that were also destroying the city over there. And in this case, we're going to go after Don Moretti, who is using the Mega Battery to fuel his mall here, as well as his food processing, like his food business. So all of this stuff we're like going through right now is technically like hot grease. Just get everything out of my way.
Good time for me to sneak in?
Yep, go ahead.
Well, I did want to shout out, we have a new incentive open for our run of Rebel Transmute. If we hit that $100 incentive, which we've already made some progress towards, Illegally Sam will be picking up a pet armadillopede in that run. We also have a new milestone. If we hit $2,500 total for the whole event, Akio, our runner for Nights into Dreams, will do a special Christmas Nights version of the game, which is essentially a demo disc for the game, but it's all Christmas themed. And you can play as Sonic. So make sure we're about 150 away from that. We would love to hit that milestone to see that extra game.
So this
There's still
room
some time. I do have.
Oh, yeah. If you want to do one more, you can.
Yeah. Well, we also have $40 from Cell. She says, as promised, here's $5 for each song I PB'd on. Thank you again to NoGA for having me back with my favorite rhythm game. In chat, keep on donating to this wonderful cause.
Here is another encounter area where we can actually, if we're allowing glitches, this can be skipped in its entirety as well. So if you had seen my AGDQ run, you may recall the use of what are called cheater badges. This category also bans the use of the cheater badges as well, because they would still facilitate a lot of unintended things that kind of still make it a little dull. So along with banning glitches, we've also banned the use of the cheater badges. I'm also going to come back here because I want to change my ability to parry instead of around the world. Move on. But the cheater badges themselves usually facilitate a lot of the skips for a lot of things, as well as a lot of the encounters that we're doing. We will still see some of them that can be done without the use of cheater badges, but they do enable quite a bit. So people that, like, I know some people weren't too keen on them and view them as cheating, so it was part of our decision as to why we kind of banned them, as it also just allows for a little bit more creativity by not having them. So we're just going through the area here, solving some puzzles, and we're going to be doing some things a little out of intended design, like getting here a little bit earlier than expected. And then we're going to completely skip the puzzle in this room. And then this upcoming room, we're going to have to outrun a wall that's trying to crush us. If I just wall ride along here, I'm basically safe the whole way. I will take some damage, but I'm not going to be at risk of actually dying here. And there we go. And then now we're going to go enter the Don Moretti fight. And his whole gimmick is that he's going to jump around a bunch and he's going to use some guns to fire bullets at us. That's the main reason we want the parry ability, is we can shoot his bullets back at him and cause him to get stunned by them. And then I'm going to come back and once again re-equip the Demon Badge. And then we'll go into the fight with the Demon Badge. So we'll see his little gimmick here. I'm going to let him come up here first. I can end the first phase very quickly. And then I can deflect his shots back at him, and they stun him. And each phase he gets a little bit faster and has a little bit more he can tank. And he also will get a different gun here in this third phase. So I want to get real close to him before I stun him, so I can get some extra hits. Come on. There we go. He's also known to very easily troll. We do have a quick kill that's done for him if he likes to play nice and go in certain paths, but he is very, very easy when, or he likes to troll, essentially. He never wants to play ball. And so getting the quick kill is not very simple on him. So we now have 2 of the 4 mega batteries. And we're going to change our badges back. So now that we have 2 of them, we can go and access the upper part of the city, the North Plaza, and access the 2 other dungeons. The first one we're going to go to is a stadium where we need to get access to a stadium, though they don't have any regular seats anymore and will only allow us to enter if we have a fan club. So there's some little fetch quests. We're going to have to find some NPCs to join our fan club. Before we can do that, there is a little thing where you have to sort of prove that we have the abilities to get to the north side of town. This is one of the things that in the other speedruns we can skip entirely due to several glitches that we have. We can completely skip the check for these abilities, but since we have them anyway, I mean, there's no real problem. We have to just walk the dog or that, and then wall bounce to get this one. And then we get access to the North Plaza. And then once up here, we're going to access a taxi spot up here as well. And then we're going to go this way. And so as mentioned, we're going to enter a stadium here. We have to get a fan club together. The nice thing is these guys will actually pay us to join our fan club. Right now it does make a difference because we don't actually need them to pay off anything for us. But in other categories where we do need more upgrades, these guys are very useful for paying those off. So we need to go around and find the fastest 5 fans we can get. And there are 10 in total, but you only need 5 to actually access the dungeon. The rest of them are just for more money. I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna throw my yo-yo there. Get this guy. And then there's a little sewer section over here. Going into the sewer is like one of the main thing, like a big thing of the game itself. The sewer areas are usually just as large as the main parts of the maps themselves, but we don't have to engage with most of the sewer sections. This category does a little bit. Once I get this guy, I'm going to pause and return to safe house, and this will put me back in front of the stadium. And this is... Oops, I forgot to hit the switch over there. That's fine. We want to be closer to the stadium. We actually want to avoid screens that have other safe rooms, because the pause and return to safe house option will put us at whatever last safe house we're at, like the last screen we were at a safe house with. So in this case, having the stadium be the last safe house we had access to means that when we pause and return there, it's going to set us back to that. Won't be the case here, because we're unfortunately, this screen has a safe house. But I need to go in here. I need to hit this switch up here for this guy down there. Now we can access him. And there's a little bit of a trick with this guy. Normally you're supposed to stumble across that guy before you realize the switch to unlock him. And to give you the ability to talk to him, they extended the little the box you can use to talk to him farther out. And by hitting that switch before we talk to him initially, that box is still extended, so we can talk to this guy from much farther away than we're supposed to, which means we don't have to travel as far into this room. And then now I need to go back, because we only need one more fan. We're gonna go up this way, thanks to our ability. And now I need to sit in a auto-scroller, so if we have anything else to talk about, now would be a good time.
Sure. Well, we do also have $25 from Vinyl Flame. They wrote so many PBs, of course referencing the unnatural number of PBs that Cell got on our last run. Well, thank you so much, Vinyl Flame.
Alrighty. And now we're in this little pool section where the last fan that we need is hiding. And now we can just pause and return to safe house, which unfortunately isn't going to put us nearly as close as we'd like, but that's not a big deal. We can still get back there fairly quickly. These guys only have 1 HP, so we can just roll over them. Big guys, not so much. So now that we have 5 fans, we can actually enter the dungeon proper. We can see them celebrating out front. So the dungeon is split into 2 halves. We have to go to the left side first. We can't do anything on the... Well, we can do anything on the right side, but normally you wouldn't. Here, we're supposed to grab this key and start a forced encounter, but if I grab the key from the other side of the bench, the forced encounter doesn't actually start, so we can completely skip that. I have to drop the key here. Go into this room. And because this dungeon's whole thing is to get the wall ride ability, so because we already have it, we can skip most of it, or most of this side. We can just immediately go over here, which is where this side tries to like ultimately lead you over to. We can skip an encounter here by standing here and throwing the yo-yo, so the yo-yo will pick up the key for us. We don't have to do any fight there as well. If Pipit will throw the key, thank you. So that's another example of an encounter skip we can do just by like knowing things rather than having to use any cheater badge or anything like that. Also, we can grab this battery. And we gotta go all the way up here. For that switch. So we can get to this room. And in this room we have to hit a couple switches so we can advance. Thankfully not too bad to get to. Though this final one is guarded by a beat cop who likes to shoot his gun at me. Fun fact about that guy is he can damage you during the cutscene skip. So if you're hugging him when you're skipping the cutscene, he will in fact deal damage to you, and you can die in the cutscene. Here I've got a very annoying fight that I'm gonna purposely go into the safe house just to give myself the demon badge for. Because this guy here does a lot of damage and likes to get in the way. There we go. That's all I needed, is I just needed to make sure that that guy was gone as soon as possible. And now I'm going to change my badges, and I'm going to change back to around the world. And the whole goal we're trying to do is the guy who's using the mega battery in this area, Carrera, he's sitting in a VIP booth just over here, and we need to use batteries to give ourselves access to it. So we go through this way, so we can press the switch, it'll give us access to a battery holder, and we come back to the batteries we were using for the dungeon itself, and just take the batteries to use to give us access to the VIP booth. So I take this battery all the way back over here, and now we can go to the other half of the dungeon, which is going to be a little bit more substantial because the idea is that at this point we will have the wall ride, so this whole other section of the dungeon is designed around using the wall ride. But it doesn't mean we're still not going to do some silly stuff. And this is it's about to turn into one of my favorite tracks in the game, which is a little mix on this one, but it's got I just like this version of this track. We can hit these. And wall right along. And now these guys, once we got rid of them, we're going to spawn a key. We'll take that key and then just drop it here. Move along. Here we get to crush a bunch of enemies. Nice, I gotta do it before they kick their little soccer balls. That enemy, their whole thing is they kick these little balls that create all that fire. So just getting rid of them quicker before they're actually able to kick it just means I don't have to deal with traversing the fire. Now we can grab the key. And then I didn't time it correctly. The around the world ability I'm using allows me to stun enemies, and we can get a lot of damage in, but there are some enemies like this guy down here where we can use the around the world to actually knock them into the pits, which will insta-kill them, which is preferable to actually fighting him, because when he's spinning with his baseball there, he will actually knock our yo-yo off the string, which then puts us into the state where we only stun, we don't actually deal damage. These guys are gonna sit here and try to throw firecrackers at me. That one actually succeeded. The funny thing about this area is those guys will oftentimes just jump into the void of their own volition. We don't have to actually intervene. Need to go over here. We need to flip that switch. That's very important. And over here, we're gonna grab this battery, throw it behind this block, so we can carry it over here. Come on, Pipit. There we go. So now here we're gonna do another little skip. So the intent is that we're supposed to go around this little section to get to the back area here, but by using the wall bounce and the wall ride, I can completely skip needing to go through any of the extra rooms and just use that block to push me. It is very tight. You don't have a lot of like leeway for it, but it is very much possible to hit that. And over here, I gotta pick up one more key, where we're supposed to combine several of our abilities to show like all the movement tricks we can do. Come on, there we go. And then I'm going to throw the key, and once it unlocks that lock, I'm going to immediately screen transition, because when our yo-yo lands on the ground, we have to wait for it to naturally respawn into our hands, but screen transitioning causes the yo-yo to instantly respawn in our hands. So by unlocking that and then immediately transitioning and then transitioning back, I just immediately get the yo-yo and I don't have to wait for it. So we had to fight another one of these guys, but this time we got some extra enemies spawning. We gotta just hopefully get rid of this guy fast enough, because once he's gone, everyone else is gone too. We're gonna go back. So Carrera is... We're not actually gonna fight Carrera. So the other two bosses we've been doing, we've actually been fighting individuals. Carrera doesn't actually fight us hands-on. We're gonna actually play a game of soccer against his team. And it's not going to be very fair for us because he has a bunch of players and it's only going to be us. But this elephant badge that I've had, the one that gives me this fire on my yo-yo, is going to give me a pretty good edge over them because the players that he has only have 1 HP. So as long as they come at me from the front, they're going to get crushed by my yo-yo and die instantly. And meaning they won't pose much of a threat to us. We can see here. We need to score 3 times before his team can score 3 times. So as long as I get lucky and they come at me just from the front, I can literally just do this. Perfect. We don't get to do it nearly as easily the rest of it because after that first score, he starts to add in new gimmicks. So in this case, he has these little barriers. We cannot carry the football through this barrier. It'll just get bounced off. So we do still have to move around them. And unfortunately, very annoyingly, when they knock the ball out of our hands, it kind of just goes wild. And this whole fight, this whole match here, is one of the biggest time losses in literally every category of this game. Because it can just get out of hands very quickly. And in other categories, we would use a cheater badge to cheese this as well. But even that comes with some risks because there's a mechanic where if the soccer ball, lands on one of these barriers, it'll teleport it back to where it was last sitting. And using the cheater badge that we would be using for here allows us to teleport. It is entirely possible for the ball to land on a field, teleport back, but we've already teleported forward, which means we just lose a bunch of time. But thankfully, we don't have to really worry about that. We just have to worry about the enemies getting in our way. So now we're at 3 of the 4 mega batteries. And now, from this point, we're supposed to go to the final dungeon and... Sorry. The final area, like the final dungeon itself, is the longest one of this entire game, but we're actually not going to engage with it. Without using any glitches, we can still skip the entirety of this next dungeon and go straight to the boss, but it's the reason why I still needed money. The whole gimmick of the final dungeon is to learn what's called the UFO throw, and then we're supposed to solve a bunch of puzzles with the UFO throw in order to obtain keys to unlock doors that will give us access to the boss. But over here back in the Slime Burrows, where we are at the very start of the game, there is a puzzle where you're supposed to guide a bunch of keys through a sewer section. And to facilitate that, there's an NPC that sells keys. So we're gonna go over here and we're just gonna buy out all of their keys. We're gonna take them and we're gonna do what I did at the beginning of the game and just use like keys from different areas to solve completely different puzzles. So I just purchased all their keys, and now I have to take every single one of these keys to my safe house. So if we have any other announcements to make, now would be a good time because the next like 2 minutes are just gonna be me running back and forth.
Oh, sure. Well, I'd just like to let chat know, if you're looking to donate, make sure to type !donate in chat, or scan the QR code currently on screen to get the link to our page where you can make a direct donation. We currently have an incentive for the upcoming run of Rebel Transmute to get a pet armadillopede, and also a bid war for character choice in tomorrow's run of Sunset Overdrive. Whichever you choose will also go to our milestone goal of $2,500 to run the additional Christmas night spin-off game of Nights After Nights into Dreams. Those go to a fantastic cause to support some adorable dogs in need of a home.
Okay, I'm While I'm doing this, I also just remembered I needed to pick up a battery that I completely spaced on, so we'll grab that after I'm done doing this. But there's one of the batteries that I used to get into the Carrera fight, I need to take to siphon for a different battery that we can skip later. So once I'm done with this section, I will have to go back and grab a battery from somewhere. But that's no big deal. But yeah, the whole point of the final dungeon is we're just going to be traveling around normally to solve puzzles and obtain keys by completing those puzzles. But by coming here and just stocking up on the batteries from, or the keys rather, from this puzzle, we can completely skip every single puzzle in the actual final dungeon. Or not the final dungeon, but this next dungeon rather. And then even how we get there, we're gonna do some silly movement. So I mentioned earlier that a lot of the dungeons have a intended side dungeon for them. The Slime Burrows, it was a skyscraper. For the mall, you didn't see it, but it's a police station. For the stadium, it's technically retrieving the fan club. But for this next section, we're supposed to get a pass to actually get into the main dungeon itself. Because the actual main dungeon is a music festival, we need a ticket in order to actually get into it. The side dungeon is what's called an escape house, and we need to complete that in order to actually get ourselves a ticket. I'm actually going to come over to a different place to get the battery that I need. This one will just be faster. But the intent is that we need to travel around the whole area that the festival is happening in, which is flooded by NPCs that are standing in line in order to get into the festival. And it's a bunch of traveling around the overworld into these, like the sewer section, back in the overworld, back in the sewers. It's a whole lot of back and forth travel just to get to the escape house. So what we're going to do instead is there is a way for us to get to the escape house in a different manner using creative movement. So instead of having to go out of my way to follow a bunch of NPCs, to go through a bunch of sewers, we're going to go to a different route to actually get to that area and abuse the fact that as I mentioned earlier, the return to safe house function is based on the last screen we were on that had a safe house. So we're going to go over on this side and use our abilities. We're basically going to take a very scenic route all the way along the neighborhood. Once we're over here, up, go a little bit further. And now once we go up to this screen, we can pause, return to safe house, and all of it has been skipped. Now we're right outside the escape house. So the gimmick with this escape house is we need to go around this whole puzzle area and clear it with clear it in a certain amount of time, or with a certain amount of like hooks used. Just to get the access to the dungeon, we don't actually need to abide by any of it. If you want some of the other rewards, you do have to do it with like a certain amount of hooks used and a certain amount of time. If anybody's curious as to what my personal best for this area is, it is 0 hooks and 2 seconds. So have fun trying to beat that. I won't explain how that works, but yes, that is actually my PB, is 0 hooks and 2 seconds. So
You used some glitches there, didn't you?
Just a little bit. You know how it is. Oop. Okay, this one wasn't wanting to play nice. That's fine. Dying in the safe house just puts us back into the same room we were in, so it really doesn't have a whole lot of risk. Even without using glitches, it's still very possible to do this whole area without a whole lot of the hooks. In fact, I think right now I've already passed the amount of hooks that you're allowed to use to get the best reward, I'm pretty sure. It's just like they intend you to use the other abilities throughout the game. I think for most people, you're not actually going to get all 3 rewards on your first go of it, because you're not going to have the full knowledge of, oops, come on, the full knowledge of what your entire arsenal does for you. Beating the time limit, though, is fairly easy. Just doing the hooks is the harder part. And now we get our pass, so I'm gonna leave. And now the entire line leaves because we have our ticket to the festival. I'm actually going to go in just to heal myself. And now I'm going to use this taxi spot. We're going to fast travel back to the North Plaza because the actual entrance to the dungeon itself is very close to the North Plaza here. So now we have our pass. We're just going to waltz in as intended. We need to go up to the stage for the festival. We have to go up here. Watch that cutscene, so the NPCs over here will disperse, letting us past. And as I mentioned, this is normally one of the longest lasting dungeons. You have to go around a whole bunch of areas. You got to do a whole bunch of fetch quests and a bunch of crap to get a bunch of keys. We don't have to do any of that. So we're just going to take keys that I've stockpiled here. And we're going to skip the entirety of the first part of the dungeon like that. So that's like 50% of the dungeon done. We can go over here. Skip that whole section. And then we have to do a little encounter here with these samurai guys. We'll knock our the head of our yo-yo off. We don't really care because oftentimes they throw it very close to them. So they don't really like actually pose any real risk. And then now we're at the other half of the dungeon where we once again now have to travel around to get 4 keys, or no, 3 keys, in order to access the backstage area. So we're just gonna pick up our keys, drop them in, and it tries to make it difficult in the, like when you put in one of the keys, a bunch of enemies spawn, we can just ignore them. We don't have to engage those guys either. We can just run past them all. Trying to not interact with the NPCs that are down here. This guy really wants me. Really coming for me. Oops. Oh, not the battery. The key. And with that, the entirety of this dungeon is complete. We didn't have to do any of the puzzles. We didn't have to engage with any of it. It's all complete. And now we go in for the final Mega Battery. Before we do that, of course, I'm going to equip the Demon Badge. And this one, we don't actually fight the individual who has the Mega Battery. We're going to fight this cosplayer who is protecting her and pretending that we are... He thinks we are also cosplaying and trying to, like, reenact a thing with him. So we're just going to bully this kid, essentially. And then after the first phase, she'll come in to provide him invulnerability. We just have to, on the second phase, we just have to hit her once to get rid of that. And then on the third phase here, we have to hit her 3 times to make her go away. This guy, we want him to not use his sword as much. We want him to throw bombs and throw his boomerang because he stands in place when he does it. We're trying to basically just bait this guy into standing still as much as possible. And when he uses his sword, it's going to knock our yo-yo off. That was not a good fight, but he at least he wasn't too obnoxious. And with that, we have our 4th and final Mega Battery. So now that we have all of them, we go all the way back to Pipistrello Manor, because now we can actually use them to help our aunt get back into her body. And before that, much like earlier, we have a little section where we're supposed to prove that we know how to use all the abilities and all that. And then you notice we still have 1 key and 1 battery. That's because we're going into the actual final area of the game, and it as well has a bunch of puzzles we're supposed to do to gather up items to actually complete it. But because we can just take in keys and batteries from other areas, we can completely skip like 90% of it. So if there's any other announcements or something to do now, would be a good time, because I'm going to be spending like another minute just getting through a puzzle section, basically.
Sure. Well, I just want to say that I've been having a wonderful time volunteering in this event. And if you'd like to help with future events, we always accept volunteer applications before the events. They typically run alongside submissions and are announced on our Discord and Twitter. Keep an eye on those if you're interested in running production, tweeting the tweets, or maybe even hosting live on the mic like I am right now. Even if you're just looking to volunteer for the first time, we would be happy to help you get your foot in the door.
I myself have considered hosting for events like this. I've even once considered, like, would it be... I've thought about even submitting to do it for GDQ once. I just don't really know if I've got the personality for that. I think a lot of the people that do that, I think they undercut themselves with how good they do it. And I feel like I could not compare to some of the people I've seen host for marathons and events.
I definitely recommend giving it a try, because all you have to do is keep your ear open for all of these events, which you probably do since you submitted for this one, and just put in an application.
So now that we're here, the Pipistrello Manor itself is falling apart, and so we have to revisit this area, but now certain sections of it are just falling apart and crumbling, and we're supposed to use our abilities to get around the fact that everything's falling apart. Which isn't too bad. And just skip over everything. And then in this room, there's going to be some annoying enemies. And then we have this guy. Oh. Sometimes the enemy won't actually give him invulnerability. I was really banking on that was actually going to happen here. And then we get introduced to a mechanic here where there's these little like green coins. We have to collect all of them without getting hurt to unlock the vines. And now the other part of the manor is unlocked to us with the west side. And then here, what I need to do is I have to go down to this lower part here. So we're going to need to obtain what's called a laser beam. We're just going to have like an actual laser cannon itself. Oops. Come on. Thank you, Pipit. So I need to grab this key. Throw it along there. Deal some lasers, which thankfully also damage the enemies. I think that room's whole purpose is just to show you that the lasers also damage the enemies, to give you ideas for what you can do with the lasers. This guy's being given invulnerability, so it's not going to hurt him. And now I have to wait for these platforms to come back so I can return. And then here's our laser cannon. So this is, its whole purpose is to basically just destroy these little blobs, and that's all it does for us. Funny enough, yeah, this only appears here and only here. And funny enough, the laser cannons themselves also kind of enable some other glitches of their own, where we can stack them on top of each other to push us through blocks and stuff. We don't really make use of it because there really isn't, like, when you're at this point, you're already at the end of the game, so there really isn't much you can do with it. But it is possible to, like, glitch through walls and stuff by using them. Here, we need to come over here for this battery. Normally, there's a whole puzzle we have to do, but if I just throw the bomb at this exact spot, it'll break all the blocks for us. We're supposed to actually go and get another laser beam to actually destroy those bombs, but that whole thing skips needing the another laser for it. And that was actually something that I stumbled across when I was casually playing this game, that I just did on accident, because I didn't actually, like, I came to that room, didn't quite understand what the point of it was, and just stumbled across, like, oh yeah, if I threw a bomb in that exact spot, it would set off everything and just finish the room. And now, because I brought in a battery and a key from before, we completely skip the rest of this dungeon, which we're supposed to go around to get another key and a battery, but we don't need to do that because I brought them in from outside. And now we enter the bottom of the lair, and just before we can actually do the final boss fight, there's a whole sequence where we have to avoid a self-destruct sequence here. So in the cutscene, Pippet accidentally enables a self-destruct sequence for the entirety of this facility. So we have 5 minutes to, or just over 5 minutes to deactivate it. So it's a little section where we're once again trying to show off that we know all the game's mechanics and how to use every ability. Meanwhile, a bunch of enemies just kind of get in our way and don't really pose a threat. Oops. I am more of a threat to myself with this. And just like the escape house, dying here doesn't really have any consequence. You just end up wasting time, which we don't really have to worry about because we end up with more than enough time. But a casual player just dying would be a massive deal. There's the UFO throw, which we've seen very few of because they're just... Normally, outside of glitches, the UFO throw is actually like one of the least used abilities, but if you allow glitches, it is the most broken ability. Kind of funny how that works out. In this section, it's sort of an auto-scroller. We have to wait for all these blocks to break so we can actually progress. And there we are. So it only took me just 2 minutes to get through that whole sequence that it gives you 6 minutes for. And now we enter the final area. But of course, before we go into the final boss, I need to come in here and re-equip the tried and true demon badge. So we spent the whole game going around to collect mega batteries so we can put our ant back together. It turns out our cousins were actually against us this whole time, and they had been reprogramming the mega batteries where when we tried to put our ant back together, all they would do would basically turn her into like a demon. So the final boss is the ant we've been trying to help this entire game. So in this first phase, it's fairly simple. We can stun lock her and make it to where she can't really get any attacks in. But the second phase, she brings us into her soul where she can manipulate the world around us. And this is a several phase fight where once we hit certain damage thresholds, she'll take us into little like challenge areas like this, where we have to like complete these areas with the various abilities we've gotten through the game. At the start here, we have to do rooms back to back like this, but after we hit a certain amount of damage, she's only going to have us do one. That was unfortunate. I held the wrong direction. But that's fine. I should be fine. I just have to be a little bit more... I was about to say I'd just be a little bit more mindful, but then I walked into the fire. That's fine, because I didn't really get too far anyway, so it's not like a big deal. This is what I don't want her to see her do. She will have the mega batteries have their like attack of their own volition, have their own minds. The red battery acts as a shield and will just knock our Yoyo off. I never want to see that ability because it just wastes time. Almost every other ability she has just makes her stand still, which allows us to get tons of damage in for free. like this, we can just stand in front of her and get damage in. And then after we hit certain thresholds, she's gonna do a little like checkpoint area where we have to get rid of the mega batteries because they're providing her invulnerability. So we have to go around and hit them to turn off their invulnerability. So like right here, we have to go around this whole arena. We can use it around the world to hit them without having to actually get closer to them. Let me just go around. And get hit on each of these. And we can continue to hit her. And clearing that gives us a checkpoint. So now if I were to somehow die again, we would start right here. And here I need to bank the yo-yo off the walls in order to hit her from behind because she's using the batteries as a shield. Those we can actually, it is entirely possible to skip those sections where we can deal enough damage to her before she's able to do that. That's the ideal scenario, but in that one she did it just before she started doing that attack before she was even in the center of the room, so there was no way for me to deal enough damage to stop it. And this room is one of the easiest to get because it's just, well, it's just that. You use the UFO throw and you just wait for it to come back. Here, another room where we have to get rid of all the mega batteries. Thankfully, the mega batteries, when you hit them, they will drop roses, which is the way you recover your health in this game. Never really talked about that, but yeah, if you take damage, the roses give you health. Here I want to see her do this attack. She turns the batteries into a sword, and during this attack, she stands still for quite a bit of time. So ideally, we would see that get spammed a lot, but this is also a good one, because she's literally standing still. And time is coming up. So now she's invulnerable again, and all we have to do is just get rid of the mega batteries once and for all. And time. And that's it. That is Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo. New Game Plus, no major glitches. Still done in an hour. Which, if you had seen my AGDQ run, you'll notice that, like, even with the glitches, it was still like half an hour. This game, still without glitches, can still have some absurdity to it. There's a lot of the games itself and its design with the keys and batteries being able to be used anywhere allows for a lot of sequence breaks that seem unintended, but the developers admit they kind of knew all this stuff was going to happen anyway. So it's just it shows that it gives us the ability to like show off more creative solutions to a lot of the game's problems and puzzles. And that's why I kind of like these runs, is it gives us the ability to show off more of the game and still show that even without glitches we can still be creative. But yeah, that is...
That was a fantastic run. You were significantly below estimate.
Yeah, that's something I need to work on, is that I've been stuck in the mindset of many moons ago where the mindset was that you need to give yourself an overly generous estimate. So that's my problem, is anytime I submit stuff, I give myself a very generous estimate. So just think of it, take it as like I'm helping us get a little ahead of schedule.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. That was a great run. Do you have any shout outs you want to do before we let you go? Yeah, I want to obviously shout out everybody in the Pipistrello community. There are people in the chat like Chibi Satan. Like there are a ton of people to credit that help with all of this stuff. Routing, glitch hunting, we've done a whole lot. A lot of the glitches that were seen in this game, we actually found within like a week or two of the game being released. So this game got broken very quickly. Of course, shout outs to the developers. They've been supportive. They've been so supportive that actually here, I didn't get to show this off at AGDQ, but they actually put me in the credits for this game. So at the very end of the credits, I'm listed there. Oh, there you are. So big shout outs to Pocket Trap. Big shout outs to their publisher PM Studios, who
reached out to me after my AGDQ run. Apparently, my run was up in their office studio. Like, they were watching my run at work, and they sent me some stuff as a thank you. So, shout outs to everybody in the community. Shout outs to the developers. Shout outs to the publishers. Everybody is fantastic. And,
well, thank you so much.
Oh yeah, just one last thing for me. You can check out my stuff at twitch.tv/MHFsilver. I mostly, at this point, I kind of mostly speedrun indie games, so... but yeah, that's where you can find me. Thanks again for the people here.
We are very happy to have you. Great. Well, we are just going to go on a quick break because we have an interview that we are working on getting set up for you. Just stick around. We'll be right back. Well, that will do it for me on the host mic. Thank you so much for being here and for donating towards Go Rescue Pet Adoption Center. I will leave you with an interview with our Doom 64 runner, and I was asked to shout this, Zello! Please enjoy the rest of No Glitches Allowed 2026.